Hey, quick story for you here. We've seen it happen more than once here in the Twin Cities. A deal is moving along just fine, and then right before closing, a furnace issue, an electrical concern, or even a roofing question pops up. And suddenly things get stressful. That's exactly why we created our worry-free closing program at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. We send a licensed technician out to check the furnace, AC, electrical safety, water heater, and water softener, coordinate a roof evaluation with a licensed roofing contractor, and provide a full report on all the home's major systems. We can do this during due diligence or even before a home is listed, so potential issues get caught early. If you're a realtor or you're buying or selling a home, there's a simple way to keep things smooth. Twin City Heating, Air, Electric, built here, stays here.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today on Twin City Tales, I'm honored to sit down with a man who has spent decades leading with purpose, compassion, and service here in Minnesota, John Estrem. John is the CEO of Hammer NER, one of the Twin Cities' most respected organization supporting adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities. But his story goes much deeper than a title. For more than 30 years, John has been at the center of nonprofit leadership, faith, community impact, and human connection, from leading Catholic charities to helping grow and strengthen Hammer and NER into an organization that changes lives every single day. He's built a career around helping people feel seen, valued, supported, and cared for. And what I respect most is this. In a world where leadership is often measured by numbers, growth charts, and headlines, John's leadership has been measured by people. Families, communities, individuals who needed hope, and teams that needed someone steady at the helm. This conversation is about leadership, purpose, faith, resilience, serving others, and what it really means to have an impact on the community. So whether you're in business, nonprofit work, leadership, or just someone trying to make a difference where you are, I think you're going to take something away from this one. Let's welcome John. John, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Wymond. It's great to be here.
Oh, fantastic. And you grew up in the Edina area.
I did, yeah. Southwest Minneapolis, 50th and France.
Okay.
Before it was what we now think of as 50th and France, more of a typical, kind of shopping district. But I grew up on kind of the Minneapolis side of that for the first 8 years, and then we moved sort of to the other side of 50th and France. But 50th and France was kind of always the center point identifier for a lot of my childhood. I grew up in the 60s and 70s.
There's a diner right over there called, it's been there for years, like right off of, I think it's like 40th in France or so.
Oh, down
it's
there.
The old diner, 50th and France. It's close by there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right on the Edina side, I think.
Okay.
It's been there for years. I love going there for breakfast.
Are you talking about the Convention Grill?
That's it, Convention Grill.
That's down 44. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, that was a world away, right? Yeah, it's only like 6 blocks, but our world was 50th in France, not 44th in France. So we never went down there.
That perspective is different as we've gotten older, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're growing up, I grew up in Hopkins, and you're like, oh my gosh, Osseo was like a long ways. That's like farm country in the 80s, right?
Right.
But in all reality, the drive is maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Now it's like,
no big deal, right?
So after high school, you kind of, actually, let's go back. During high school or during the school years, you had told me your mom helped in park activities. How much did that shape in those early experiences where your heart was going to be in that?
Well, a lot. And, obviously I didn't know that at the time, but in retrospect, a lot. My mother loved kids, any kids, absolutely any kids. And anybody who asked her to do something with kids, she was there for it. And so this was the early, maybe mid-70s. there wasn't really much going on in an organized fashion, kind of just before the big special ed movement and all of that stuff. And there's a group of parents who had children with disabilities who wanted to do something in the summer. So they got organized and, asked the park board if they could use a park and put on I think it was a 6-week kind of recreation program for kids with disabilities. It never became an organization. It was just this group of parents. And so my mom, I'll help because it had to do with kids. And of course, I don't know, 13 years old, kind of that awkward age sort of between the paper route and when you can get a real job and you're sort of underfoot for the summer. So mom was like, guess what? You're coming along.
Right.
And I always say I liked to eat dinner, so I didn't want to make my mom mad, so I went along, I just sort of fell in love with it. And from there, I ended up working at summer camps and summer schools and all sorts of things.
Mainly with disability?
All of it.
Oh,
and
really?
I went off to college with the confidence that only an 18-year-old can have.
Yeah.
That I knew exactly what I was going to do with my life, which was special education. So I applied to one college because they had a special ed program, and I got in, and off I went. It's not how life worked out, but it was always there from a pretty young age.
That is so fantastic because I feel like back then too, it was so I wouldn't say shunned upon. It was just like so different, right? Like I feel like that we're so much more this generation. That's why I say the greatest generation was probably World War II veterans and stuff they say. But I say this generation right now, the ones that are like in their 20s and 30s right now, I think they're a great generation too because I've not seen as much acceptance as they have these days. And I think when we were younger and we saw a disabled peer, we're just like, ooh, what do we say to them? What do we do? I was that way. I just didn't know, because they were different. But the
advancement in those days was what we would call separate but equal, not integrated. That came later. And I think that's the difference you're talking about. Is today it's about integrating people into life and the community and the school or whatever it is. Those days it was like, well, let's create a special program for them, which was better than nothing.
Yeah.
And kind of a first step. But you're right, very different than today.
Yeah. And I think sometimes I still feel like people that are more in the 40s and 50s and 60s right now, and they have that same sense still because they haven't really, encountered it. And even me, up till about 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I was probably like, ooh, the kid that was working at McDonald's, he just wants to be heard, seen, and loved. And he kind of says hello to me, and I'm like, ooh, what do I say?
Yeah, exactly.
And I just treat them like humans because that's what they want.
Exactly.
They want to be seen.
Same thing as you and I.
Yes, yes. And we don't realize that sometimes until you start spreading the word a little bit more, right?
Right.
And then so you went on from there in that level, and then you went to St. Cloud.
Right.
And then you went to St. Thomas.
Yeah, I went to St. Cloud State because that was in those days, late 70s, where you got a special ed degree in Minnesota. I mean, it was just known. That's why I said I applied to one college because they had the program, and off I went. But in my first year of college, I got really interested in something that was even kind of more pioneering at that time, which was religious education, special education. So for kids, it was about providing a religious education experience for special needs kids, which, prior to that, the common thought was, well, they don't need it, so we don't need to do anything. But there were a few pioneers. There was actually a nun in Wisconsin. I remember going to, I think, Madison or somewhere and listening to her talk and kind of learning about this sort of new idea. And I got really, really intrigued by that. And so it kind of shifted my focus, even though there wasn't such a program. I was just going to design my own and kind of head in that direction. It's also what didn't happen, but that's what I started out in.
Yeah, but you never know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Right.
I always think that when we're younger, like we see this vision,
Right, exactly.
and then just constantly changes and ebb and flows like the river. And you kind of end up where you're supposed to be, I feel like.
That's exactly right. You do end up exactly where you're supposed to be. And, you know, I always say you can't figure out the path by standing and looking. You got to get moving and find out where the intersections are and where the curves are and where the roadblocks are. You don't find those by just standing there and waiting to figure out, you know, so I don't do anything wrong. No, just get going. Figure it out along the way.
Well, you know what just kind of hit me funny with this, what you just said about going from what you did and when you were younger, 13, and then finding this new program and going, wow, you're kind of an innovator. You where do you think suppose that came from?
You know, I don't know for sure, but I'm a very curious person by nature, and I like new things. And I always say I probably would have been really happy in my career if I changed careers like completely every 3 or 4 years. You know, like truck driver. Now I want to go be, you know, whatever. Because I like new things. And I'm a person that not only embraces change, but actually sort of thrives. But it's not just tolerate, although I do tolerate change. It's about wanting to be making it happen. You know, like, you know, these days you hear a lot in business and in other things, in nonprofit business too, you know, about, well, what are the best practices? And I bristle at that because, and I've said to consultants that I've used, I'm going to fire you if you use that term, because best practices means yesterday's practice. And I don't want to know yesterday's practice. I want to know tomorrow's practice.
Wow.
Put me out on the front edge. Let's figure this out. And let's push through to something new. I don't know. I guess I'm, you know, maybe a little bit shiny penny. I like the shiny penny or something, but I'm not so interested in, you know, a lot of this sort of like, oh, well, this is what everybody else is doing. Well, great. You know, thank you very much. But what's going to be the next edge?
You know, I think that's a really good point, and especially leadership, right? So one of our core values that we have at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric is committed to excellence. And the first line it starts off was, we never accept the status quo.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean you have to be perfect.
No.
It just means that you always have to be looking.
Right. And actually, if you're like that, you will probably make more mistakes.
That's true.
Because you're not playing it safe, right? You know, playing it safe, you'll make a lot less mistakes, but you also may not create something that as good as it could be. And so you have to be, if you want to be innovative, we use that term a lot, you got to be willing to make mistakes. And you got to be willing to own up to that and correct them and fix them and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So
it's pretty cool because it just makes me think of Jamie Ogden, who was on our podcast a few podcasts ago. He played for the Twins. He was like a minor leaguer and 10 years with the Salt Lake City Buzz or whatever. And you know what he said that I thought was really cool? He said, we learn more from our cracks than we do from our polish. Yeah. Which I feel like it's the same thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very much the same.
Yes, for sure. And I know when you went to St. Thomas, go Tommies.
Yeah,
Julie,
go Tommies.
Julie was a Tommy.
Okay, all right.
Was that the path you started going into? Was seminary too, or was that?
Yeah. So there at St. Thomas, there is a college seminary on the campus. So you participate fully in campus life. You know, you can do sports and you eat in the dining room like everybody else, and you know, extracurriculars, whatever. But you live in a particular dorm with other guys who are thinking about ministry in the future. So it's really about a place that tries to provide an atmosphere to sort of discern what's your next step. And, you know, truthfully, most of the people there don't go on to ordained ministry, but, you know, a number do.
How hard was that program? Because
I went there for my last 2 years of college.
Okay.
I mean, I have to confess that part of my motivation of going into the program was it was a way to live on campus. I couldn't afford. I was living at my folks, who I love dearly, but it was a bit of a commute. And who, at 20 years old, wants to live with your parents? So it's like, well, this is the way I can get on campus because I can't afford to pay room and board. So, but it worked out well, and I went on from there. You then go to 4 years of graduate school.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of schooling left, but I did spend my last 2 years of college at the college seminary.
That sounds like almost like me, somewhat, except for you were a little smarter. I just had to jump from college to college.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to pay a student loan right away, right? Like, just go get another loan.
Exactly.
Stay in college.
Yeah.
So in your path in the seminary, when you went through that and that part of your season, how do you think that helped you shape how you lead and serve people? Because I feel like that's a big one.
Yeah. Well, my interest in church ministry was really about sort of the intersection of church and society. I wasn't as interested in sort of the internal goings-ons of the church. I was interested in what the church's purpose, in my opinion, is to be leaven in the world, right? So I like to say, as a Christian, Jesus didn't come to create a church; he came to save the world. And the church then becomes the vehicle about how do we intersect. So I was very interested in, things like housing and food shelves and other things, and the kind of faith dynamic around caring for the needy, more than I was interested in the internal politics of the church.
It makes a lot of sense by who you are. I mean, I feel like that kind of helped you serve a lot.
Very much
at a high
so.
level.
Right.
Understanding that portion of it. And then you got into nonprofits early, right after that, right? Or
well, I was ordained. I served 23 years, but the last 5 of those years was running Catholic Charities here in the Twin Cities, which is, one of the bigger social service agencies in the area, one of the bigger Catholic charities in the country. And it was there that I got my second master's degree, which is it's an NBA, so it's an MBA for nonprofits.
Okay.
So it's specially designed. I went to Notre Dame. It was in the business school, and got my NBA. I think they might have changed the name of it, but it doesn't matter. And because I got very interested in the how do you do mission-aligned nonprofit work and make it work financially, right?
Yeah.
Because sort of up to about that point, I was probably the typical kind of person in that sort of thing, which is like, don't talk to me about money. I just want to go do good work, right?
Yeah.
But realizing that money, right, makes the world go round. And it's how you keep, the phrase got developed, no money, no mission, right?
Right.
So, and I was like, how do you run a business with good business principles, but still staying aligned to your values and your mission and the people that you support? So I always like to say the difference between a nonprofit business and a for-profit business is I'm willing to lose money on some of the things I do, as long as I know where I'm making that up.
Interesting.
So, in most businesses, you want every line of service to cash flow, to make money, maybe during the startup, not so much, but, eventually that's kind of the goal. You want every line of business to be making money. And I get that, right? But in a nonprofit, you might say, I'm willing to lose money on these couple lines of business, but I'm going to make it up either through fundraising or through some other lines of business that produce a little profit to cover that. But it's about being aware and how do you make that all knit together. We run group homes and we lose money in every home that we operate.
Right.
But we're aware of that. We know where we're losing.
Yeah.
And where are we going to make it up in the rest of the business to cover that?
Gotcha. How do a lot of those how does a lot of nonprofits do that?
Right.
Because I know some nonprofits, like a lot of times, like at least I've, one of my dreams a few years back was I wanted to open up a nonprofit coffee house for disabled adults that could work there, right?
Right.
One of my thoughts was, it's not the coffee that
Right.
makes the money. It's the building
Right.
that you can lease out to other
Right.
people that
Right.
you have the one section. Could you share a little bit with me on how some of the other nonprofits might be, because they don't always buy the building?
No,
but
no. Yeah, usually real estate is not a great investment for social service nonprofits. It's sometimes necessary, but not a great money maker. Well, I can say in our case what it is. Of course, first of all, it's fundraising, right? So as a nonprofit, we can raise money, and we've really kind of focused on that. When I got to Hammer 14 years ago, we were not doing a lot of fundraising, and disability services kind of didn't need to up until maybe 15 or 20 years ago, because the funding, the public funding, was more generous then.
yeah,
But as that was getting squeezed and tightening, and costs were rising at a much quicker rate than any kind of reimbursement rates were, we had to figure out how we're going to make some money. So fundraising is, of course, a big piece of it. Another piece is, like, for instance, it doesn't produce a ton of money, but it produces a little bit. We have another, kind of business called Hammer Travel, which provides fully escorted, vacation travel experiences for people with disabilities, staffed by our staff. And, people pay for that on their own, or their families pay for them, or whatever it is. It doesn't use any government money. It can't by law. But we figured out a way to do that model, provide really good service and a good experience, and make a little bit of money. Yeah, it's not a ton. It's not a profit margin that anybody in a for-profit business would
would ever
hold up.
do. Yeah.
But in our case, it produces a little bit of money for us.
And it's such a great program. I'm just knowing a few the residences that got to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And it's such a memory for them.
Oh, yeah,
and
it's
isn't that what life's all about?
Yeah,
When you can have
amazing.
somebody advocate for you,
Yeah.
to have that.
Right.
When you can't advocate
Right.
for yourself, and the smiles that
Right.
they have on their faces, it's
It's
no amount of
amazing.
money really
Yeah,
can
exactly.
take care of that, right?
Right, right.
So that's really interesting. And so those years, though, it just seems like it taught you something about humanity too.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the biggest lessons you learned going through that? At Catholic Charities and stuff.
Yeah,
It's a big humanity thing.
I think the primary message for me, there's two of them. One is that I think, every person in and of themselves as they are is worthy of respect and love and care. That there's some people are better than others, or whatever it is. We all have different abilities. I like to say we all have disabilities. We all have abilities. Where those all line up. But everybody, as a person of faith, I'd say everybody is made in the image of God. I don't care who you are or what you do. That's the fundamental, kind of driver, is that spark inside every single human person. That's the other thing is my own personal mission is about creating or uncovering opportunities for others. I'm where I am today because I had opportunity. But I'm also very aware that I didn't create one of those opportunities. Somebody else did. My parents, my government, my church, my school created these opportunities. Now, I took advantage of them. Okay, so maybe a little tiny bit of credit, but I did not create my own opportunities. You don't create your own opportunities in life, right? Somebody else creates them.
Right.
So the difference between me and somebody who is, maybe struggling more than I am is that they probably haven't had the same opportunities that I've had. So I want to, like people say, well, aren't you worried about people taking advantage of you? And I say, no, I'm giving my advantage away freely, or sharing my advantage.
Very awesome. That's such a great line too. Like that. Yeah. It's such a giver's gain mentality, right? I mean,
it's the way I was raised. My parents are very much like that. And it was just, I don't know. It didn't,
And that thing about opportunities, right? Not taking the opportunities or take the opportunity. I always love the old joke where a guy gets stranded on a roof because of big flood, right?
Right, exactly.
The boat comes by and goes, God will take care of me. Don't worry about it. Helicopter comes out, God would take care of me. And then somebody else comes by and goes, that's all right. God will take care of me. Next thing you know, he's up at the pearly gates and St. Peter says, hey, what happened? How come you're up here? He goes, well, I figured God would take you. Well, he did. He sent the helicopter and he didn't take that. So it's like opportunity, right? That you don't always recognize, but you do have to help yourself when the time comes. So, but isn't that the beauty of God too, and a higher power? Like they give you these things. It's up to you to make of it what it is. So that is pretty wild. So, and then eventually your journey led you to Hammer and NER. What was it about that mission that felt so personal and meaningful to you?
Yeah, I about 17 years ago, I stepped outside of ministry and decided that I really wanted to pursue this kind of intersection of nonprofit service and good fiscal responsibility and running it as a good business, but with a mission. The Hammer job, sort of opened up, and it was like this perfect alignment because that was my first love, special ed, and I always kind of kept an eye on it, and I was always, paying attention to what was happening in the field, and of course it had changed a lot, but it was always very close to my heart, and I had really housing became a really huge passion of mine, and in disability, one of the primary things we provide is housing. Housing then becomes the base where we can provide a lot of other things. So it was just this kind of natural alignment, I saw the job open. I didn't honestly know much about Hammer. I probably still had old images of Hammer, back when we were a facility, a campus, and a school even, if you go back far enough. But kind of going through the process, I remember I was driving home from one of the interviews, and I called my mom had passed a few years earlier, but my dad was still alive, and I called him up and I said, I think maybe I found my place.
That's awesome.
And sometimes, it's even hard to put a finger on why, Maybe it's a little bit, maybe this is too lofty, but it's a little bit like falling in love, because you don't really know exactly. Like you can describe a lot of the things, but there's something else, right?
Yeah.
That's really hard to name.
Yeah. It just feels like such a great fit.
Yeah.
Lack of a better term, love at first sight.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
So, if for some people who don't understand what Hammer's like, because I would have never known what Hammer's like before, what does daily life look like for the people that Hammer serves?
Right.
And NER, I guess.
It's, on one level, I can say the answer to that is, well, if you've seen one person, you've seen one person, right? And everybody's different, just like the rest of us. Yeah. But there are some common themes. So we own and operate 59 what are commonly called group homes. And most of those 4 people live in the home. There's a few homes that 6 do. It depends on the licensing. But most of the homes are 4-person homes, just in a neighborhood like anybody else's home. And they live there with 24-hour staffing, but the staff doesn't live there. It's shift staffing. So different people come in but there's always somebody there. Every person, every individual we serve has kind of an annual plan. Like we might think of it like sitting down between Christmas and New Year's and say, what do I want next year to look like, right? Maybe even writing a few things down, right? By the 5th of January, we forgot about that. But anyway, that's a different story. But the people we support, they are required to have an annual plan. And that plan will have goals and even some ways, even some of those goals broken down into tasks that get you toward the goal. And so, the staff are fully aware of that, and that becomes kind of a guidebook for the individual. So maybe this particular individual has all their life, their getting ready in the morning routine has required prompts from the staff. And the goal is to be able to do that from beginning to end without the prompts.
Yeah.
And so you break it down, all the tasks, and you start to figure out what are the steps to help somebody move towards that level of. So our goal is for everyone to experience as independent a life as is possible for them. But it's going to look different for everybody. Many of the people we support do go either to a day program or to a job. We do increasingly have people who've kind of retired from work or are in between jobs. That's a different story. So they would go off like you or I to work or to their day program where they might be involved in a variety of different kinds of activities and come home in the afternoon. Most of the houses, most of the people, they live somewhat communally. They all have their own bedroom, so their own space, but the living room and kitchen, they might participate in making dinner or cleaning up, or maybe they decide as a group they're going to watch a movie tonight or go for a walk, or they're going to go out bowl a couple lanes, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Again, it's very much like you and I, right?
Yeah.
Or they say, well, I really need to do my laundry tonight. Well, that's it's just like the rest of us.
Just like
right?
the rest, exactly.
They just they just often need a little bit of help, some prompts maybe to kind of keep on task, and many of them do really well and live pretty independent lives. They probably wouldn't be able to live on their own, or they would be living on their own, right?
Right.
But they don't need constant hands-on. Staff are there sort of when they're needed.
Yeah.
Now, in some of our homes, as people our age, because people with disabilities are living a whole lot longer than they ever used to. And they have increased medical needs. So a lot of our staff are doing more hands-on cares of people we support. It's really, even in the 14 years I've been there, the change has been pretty dramatic.
Yeah, I can see that.
Pretty dramatic. And quite honestly, 20 years ago, certainly 30 years ago, people with disabilities just didn't live into what we would consider old age.
Yeah.
So we're really serving the first generation of senior citizens. Anyway.
I was actually curious when you started talking about that, because, I do realize like people are living longer now, right? And,
right.
And people with disabilities are the same.
Right.
And how has that changed, especially in that healthcare needs that they have? How's that changed in what your organization is doing?
Well, I think the biggest thing has changed for the direct care workers, what we call DSPs, direct support professionals. The image I use is when we moved, we used to have a campus. When we moved from our campus out into group homes in 1989-90, I would have described our staff more like camp counselors, right? More like planning activities,
right,
and doing that kind of stuff. Maybe a little bit of cares, but not a ton. Today, they're a bit more like CNAs in many settings, not all of them, but in many of the settings where they're administering a lot more medication. Used to be, you had your morning meds and your evening meds, and for most people, that was it. Now it might be 4 or 5 times a day, or there might be other treatments involved. We have nurses on our staff, but we don't have a nurse present all the time in every house, right? That wouldn't be really feasible. But the primary thing that nurses do is they train the staff to be able to do the cares that are necessary for the individuals in that house. Yeah. So that has changed a lot.
So, which is really interesting, because as we go back, we talk about like it's a work of love. It's a work of your passion, right?
Right.
But what I've noticed actually, just in the business world, private equities are starting to sneak into these group homes and people who really need it. And what really hits me, kind of saddens me, is I can see that happening, and just knowing how private equity reacts to things like, hey, home cooked meals are $5. If we give them a can of SpaghettiOs and hot dogs, that's $1.
Yeah.
We save $4 per person, right?
Right.
And
It's happening.
they
It's
can't
happening.
advocate for them as highly as I feel like you guys do. Balancing that profitability and vision mission when caring for the vulnerable populations, what do you have concerns about when that happens? Because that's where I'm seeing that's going to be an issue in the future.
Yeah, Minnesota's interesting in disability services, and other states also, but I know the Minnesota experience in that we have both for-profit and nonprofit providers. There's no guarantee that it's not like for-profit bad, nonprofit good. There's no guarantee on either side of that equation. But I struggle both as a service provider and as a taxpayer.
No.
To providing a model where profit becomes a driver. We have to, as a nonprofit, we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to balance the books. And yes, contrary to popular belief, nonprofit is just a tax status. It's not you can look at Harvard University. It's a nonprofit. It makes millions, if not billions, a year, right? The difference is that I or no other employee can take any of that money to themselves, right?
Right.
It's what the IRS calls it. Can't inure to individuals. It has to stay there for the mission. But when you put a profit motive, you layer one more thing in there on a profit motive. Honestly, I don't know how you make it work, first of all, without cutting services. We are 83% of our costs at Hammer are people costs. So it only leaves 17% of the rest of our budget, right?
Yeah.
So you want to cut costs, you have to cut people. You have to cut staffing. You have to cut, and by cutting staff, the primary service we provide is staffing. That's our primary service.
Yeah.
So by cutting staffing, we cut services, and less staffing, or staffing that are, maybe less trained or whatever, that becomes a problem. But that's the only way you can make a profit, right?
Yeah.
And
then having constant turnover if you are not paying the people the right amount.
It's still a problem. Yeah.
And I think lately it's been harder too, because I feel like the workforce staff has gotten a little more pickier, and then plus the challenges of inflation and wages.
Yeah. Inflation's real. I just filled up my tank on the way over here at, $4 and whatever it was. It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. And people struggle with that. Our staff struggle with that. And we're constantly trying to figure out. I mean, human services have often been provided by low-wage workers. That's part of the American legacy. So.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I'm a firm believer of advocating for people who can't advocate for themselves.
Exactly.
And that's what your group really does, right? I mean, that's pretty amazing. It's one of those things where with the cost of care going up, how is your organization, what are they doing to help step up those efforts?
Well, like sort of every other industry, anything that we can, automate, for lack of a better term. So, back office things is, pretty, we've had a significant investment in technology and other things.
Yeah.
That isn't not so much about the support that's done, but how we use technology to be more efficient in the work that we do. I've been in myself and a couple of other nonprofit leaders in the disability. We've gathered together. There's 5 of us nonprofits who are in some serious conversations about what can we do together, to reduce some of the cost of because I look at our healthcare bills every month, and they're significant. And are there things that we can do around that? So we're like any other business. I would imagine you do sort of the same thing, right? Trying to figure out, like, where can I move this needle or that needle?
Where do you combine some leadership, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And where you're not overlapping as much, because those are efficiencies.
Right.
And I think if you do combine with other groups, you can increase those efficiencies, right? I mean, make. And I think in the private equity world too, when they do that, they're kind of doing the same thing in a sense, as how they probably are doing it. Where, okay, instead of having like one of like 3 different heads of the area, we can combine it into one, right? So, I mean, for us,
obviously the difference is for private equity, they're trying to return that to the investors. Yeah. For us, we're trying to return it to our staff and the people we support.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So that's kind of the difference of the nonprofit. Every dollar we make has to be reinvested in our mission. That's just what nonprofits do. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm learning a lot more about nonprofits, and even though I kind of always wanted to start one, it's one of those things where I think I have to keep learning about it.
Sure.
But it is amazing. I'm like coming from one of the best in this industry.
Thank
you. So as we move further along, what can the people help with, especially in these disabled adults? That how can the people listening actually help?
Sure. I would say the first step is really get to know somebody who lives with a disability, whether it's a relative or a neighbor. I live in Richfield in a 75-year-old neighborhood, a lot of smaller, older homes, and when I walk around, I count how many ramps there are up to the front doors now. And I've been there long enough to know that, that's a new ramp. That's a new ramp, right? And that's partly aging in place, but it's at least one small sign of disability.
Yeah.
Like you say, if you're at McDonald's or Starbucks or Lunds and Barley's or whatever it is, and there's a worker there with a disability, say hello to them, acknowledge them, thank them, whatever seems appropriate. Ask them the questions you'd ask some other employee. Where's the wild rice, or whatever it is, you can ask, so I would say see and acknowledge people with disabilities, because they're all around us constantly. And often they get literally looked over while somebody is looking for somebody who doesn't have a disability. So pay attention to that. It's a natural human instinct. I'm not shaming anybody for doing it. We've all done it. But so you have to kind of be conscious and aware. You have to say, this is, what I'm going to do and who I'm going to be. So the more we have, quote, relationships, whatever that means, it doesn't mean they have to become your best friend, but see them everywhere, acknowledge them, center their experience as being part of the breadth of experience of everybody's life. Anyway, so that would be the first thing. Obviously, more directly, as a nonprofit, we have over 500 volunteers who help us in all sorts of different ways. Go to our website, hammer.org. You can see some of those, or you can contact our volunteer director and say, I'd like to do something. And we try to get really creative and help people fit it into their lives, and help them to have a good experience of that. And then, of course, there's always money, right? We have, in order to balance our budget, we have to raise $2 million plus a year. We do that with a lot of small donors. I mean, we have some larger. Not a lot of foundations support disability work, so it's not a lot of foundation money.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of corporate money. Some. It is mostly small and medium-sized donors, family foundations, donor-advised funds, people given their required minimum distribution out of their IRA, right?
Yeah,
You can now donate directly to a nonprofit from your IRA and
Yeah.
avoid the taxes. So there's a lot of different ways to give. If you want to know more about us, go to our website, hammer.org. Also coming up on June 18th, we have our Reach for Ralph,
Oh, yeah.
which is our annual kind of fundraiser. Everybody calls it a gala. We bristle a little bit. We kind of call it the anti-gala because it's nice, but it's not. We're not overly formal as an organization. It's a little bit more down home. It's on a Thursday night in the summer, which is like sort of everybody says, well, you have to do a weekend, not in the summer. But we've been doing it that way for years. It's very successful. It's very inspirational. You know, we've got the silent auction, the live auction, all that kind of stuff, like any other organization, and it's grown. But tickets are available now to the Metropolitan Ballroom in Golden Valley.
I believe Julie and I are going.
You better be. You've been there every year, I think, right?
Yeah, I think we missed last year or the year before. One of them we missed.
Yeah.
But you know, everybody there's amazing. I'm going to tell you this story, and he at Ellen's retirement,
Right.
So Danny Newell,
Oh, Danny.
he puts up his boat every year for help fundraise, right? And we bidded on that boat like 4 years ago, and it's not about the boat ride, and it's not about that. It's about giving to something that's so great, right? And we won it, and it's kind of one of those things where it was a low year for water out there. I don't know if you remember. It was like, I want to say right after the pandemic. Or no, it was in the pandemic year, so the first year was like kind of like we didn't do it because of the pandemic. Then the second year was like low water. But he catches me like a couple weeks ago or a month ago and says, hey, I still owe you a boat ride. It's like, I mean, that's fantastic people like that support the organization. That's just amazing.
Denny has been a volunteer at Hammer, I think, for 45 years.
Yeah, and he's been on the board, too.
He's been on the board. He's been on the finance council. He helped us out in some difficult times to rethink some things. He's been a really loyal friend, and the most amazing thing is he does not have like a family member with a disability or a direct relation.
No.
So he's very community-minded, lives right in Wayzata, got involved with us back when we had a campus. He and a group of guys, I used to come in, you know, back in the day of our buildings and take the storm windows off and put the screens on and then reverse that in the fall. So, yeah, Denny's a loyal friend.
Got a big heart.
Very big heart.
You know, the other
and
thing,
a gorgeous boat. That boat is amazing.
The Myrna.
All wood. All wood. What is it, a 1935 or something?
Something like that. It used to be like one of the taxiways, or not taxiways, but one of the ones that was originally on the water back in those days.
And it just kind of putts along.
It's just a fun, We went on it before, too, because we've been on it before. But, you know, the other story about him, I don't know if you knew this, was that, well, him and Mary Wesley, Julie's mom, served on the board together. And then the other thing about him was him and Mike Wesley, the brother of Julie's, and Denny Newell, went to school in Wisconsin with George Wendt in high school, apparently.
Oh, really?
Norm from Cheers.
So, small world. Right?
It is kind of a small world, but yet still pretty big. It takes people like him to really make this world go around, right? Just the little things that you can do. I mean, the other thing that, you know, I keep talking about was we want to bring our team there at one point, because I know a few years ago I started talking about that, was bringing them to help cook lunch at one of the homes. Is that still going on?
That can still happen. It we don't do it in quite the same way. We started something during the pandemic and kept it going for a little while. But there still are opportunities to do things in individual homes. We used to we used to cook a whole bunch of meals at the office and kind of ship them out to help out the houses. But we sunsetted that program at the end of last year, and kind of. It was a great program, and it was wonderful, and it was really helpful. but you're cooking the same meal for every house. And again, we want people to have independence, you know, and we want them to have a little bit of choice about what they eat. I mean, so.
Well, and it takes a village, right? So, the other thing that I enjoyed doing that we've done a couple of times was, and that was on the NER side when NER came over, but they have that little Hawaiian luau out there in the park. Just even volunteering to help out and clean up, break down those. That's huge for the people. Right. I mean, you're really doing, for lack of better words, God's work, right? And community work, just really helping out the community. Well, we're going to take a quick break from here, and then we'll be back.
All right.
At Twin City Tales Podcast, we believe in strong communities are built by people and organizations willing to care for others. That's why we are proud to support Hammer and NER, an incredible Minnesota nonprofit helping adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities live life to the fullest. Their work creates opportunity, dignity, independence, and connection right here in our community. If you'd like to help, Hammer and NER is always looking for volunteers, advocates, and donations to continue their mission. I am one of those people that highly help that community out. Learn more, get involved, or give back at hammer.org. Together, we can continue building a stronger, more compassionate community for everyone. Ever walk into a house and flip a switch and have no idea what it actually does? Like, is it a light, an outlet, or something in the garage? Nobody knows. Or what about when you plug in something into an outlet and it just slowly falls out like it's giving up on life? Or worse, the outlet just doesn't work at all. Well, we see that stuff every day. At Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, we help homeowners take care of those small electrical issues before they turn into bigger problems. Loose outlets, dead plugs, mystery switches, we'll track it down, fix it right, and make your home actually work the way it's supposed to. So if something feels off electrically, it probably is. Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, built here, stays here, feel the difference. If you're enjoying this episode, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. It seriously helps us reach more amazing people across the Twin Cities and beyond. And if you're feeling a little extra generous today, drop us a rating or a review. It only takes minutes, but it makes a huge difference in helping new listeners find Twin City Tales. That's how this community actually grows. You can get us on any place where you consume your podcast. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And when you get to that YouTube button, hit subscribe. That really helps us find more amazing people like John Estrem here. And don't forget to follow us on Twin City Tales on Facebook for behind the scenes moments, episode updates, and special announcements. We appreciate you more than you know. And remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong on the Twin City Tales podcast. Well, this is the portion of the show where we have pictures of you.
Uh-oh. All right.
And I'm going to start with this one because I have the feeling that this is you.
Yeah.
At a much younger age.
Right.
And is that your mom?
That's my mother. Yeah.
Nice,
That's me and my mother
Where was this at and what year?
Boy. I'm going to guess that was in the 80s, maybe the 90s. I'm trying to figure out.
The pictures and the big chair.
Yeah. Can't quite place
Was this
it,
in Minnesota too still? Or Richfield?
No. My parents never lived in Richfield. I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they live in a small town or
no, they lived in Edina. Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah. So not far from Richfield, but yeah.
And then we'll go with this one. This one looks like quite the fun picture of four golfers.
This was our annual golf trip back in the day. We started this in about 87, 88. We did it every winter, first 2 weeks of January. For many years. These are all friends, still friends. I just had dinner with him last night. I'll have dinner with him Sunday night. So anyway, we're still friends, but don't really do this golf trip anymore. But we probably did it for 2 decades.
Are they college friends or just?
They are. They are. Yeah. They are college friends. You're right. Yeah.
From St. Thomas or St. Cloud? Okay.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the best friends that,
Right.
it's kind of cool because you get to see the progression of your life with them. I actually still play cards with my friends from high school. Actually, we get
well, I have a lot of friends from high school. Yeah.
So,
even grade school.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. And Edina, too.
Yeah.
We talked about this, but was it back in the day of Edina West and Edina East? Or
I actually went to West.
West,
We lived just across the highway on the west side, so we went to West, even though we could have walked to the East building. It was 2 blocks from our house. We had to get bussed out to the West building because
that was efficient, right?
It's just how it worked, right?
I come from the days of Lindbergh and Eisenhower, so must have been a lot more kids back then.
A lot more kids, right?
I love this picture.
Yeah,
and that's a black and white of all.
So that's our house in Southwest Minneapolis.
Okay,
very close to 50th and France, just a couple of blocks away. My older sister, my older brother, and my younger brother. So there were 4 of us. We're all roughly 4 years apart.
Okay.
So there's kind of a spread there. This is probably 2nd grade.
Interesting.
Would be my guess. Probably somewhere about that age. We've got ties on. That was probably for school. Not sure, though. But yeah, 4812, that was our address. That house is gone, right? They tore it down 10 years ago and built, big house there.
Oh, interesting. They dressed for school a little more dapper back in the day, didn't they?
It might have been church, but it could have also been school. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wore ties until from 1st grade to, I think they finally got rid of it in maybe 6th grade.
Wow, that was kind of a little bit before my time.
Little clip-on ties, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't remember having to wear a tie. And I went to Golden Valley School.
Yeah, well, this is Catholic school, so.
Catholic school. And this is another nice black and white one.
That's a little bit later. So it's my mom and dad, my younger brother, and me.
Yeah.
I don't know. How old do I look there? That's our other house. That's our 2nd house.
Okay.
And I don't know. It must be, what, is that about 5th grade maybe? No, I'd have to be older than that because my younger brother's 4 years younger. Well, no, that could be about right. With my glasses, I had glasses from the time I was 3 until 8th grade. Now I just wear them for reading, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very
typical, right?
It's very 60-ish.
Yeah.
So that just a typical family in Edina.
We were typical. Dad was a salesman. Mom worked a little bit outside the home, but more. She actually was the kind of founder and ran Edina Meals on Wheels.
Oh,
for years. We ran it out of our kitchen. I mean, we didn't make the meals in our kitchen. But,
right.
And that's why she took the job, because she could be home for most of the day, except for those hour and a half when the meals were actually going out.
Yeah. I wonder if it's as big back then. Was it really big? Or
kind of every community had their own in those days. Now they've all kind of merged together into one, larger operation. But,
I volunteer driving for it. I think it's one of the best things you can do. You drop off the meal, and some of those people do not have companionship, and
it could be the only human encounter they get all day.
Yeah, and you just I leave doing that every time, going, I did a good thing today. Yeah. I felt really good about doing that. So it's fantastic. So looking back at all this, when people look back. And someday on your life and your leadership, what do you hope they say John Estrem stood for?
I want them to say that John Estrem treated everybody the same. He had he believed in the radical equality of every single human being. That's really important to me. And he worked to create opportunities for everyone.
I've known you for a little while now,
Right.
and seeing
Yeah.
you lead Hammer, and I just see you as the guy with a cape for the disabled adults.
Yeah.
That
It's
need
a passion.
advocating.
Yeah.
It is. Who is someone you would love to hear or see on this podcast, and why?
So this may seem a little too on point, because I'm going to actually say Alvina Hammer, who founded Hammer Residences, and like I say, a little too on point. But I never knew Alvina. She founded Hammer Residences in 1923. She was a single woman who worked at, one of the state institutions down in Faribault in 1923. And if you stop and think about it, in 1923, women, particularly single women, didn't have many options. And there was no social safety net to fall back on. So she had what appeared to be probably a pretty good job for a single woman in 1923, working at a state institution. But she really believed that, particularly at that time, these kids could live a better life. So she quit her job and she rented a house in South Minneapolis, kind of down near Minnehaha Falls, and opened a school in the living room. I mean, I just can't even imagine that, right? I mean, first of all, the risk involved in that. She put everything on the line.
And
right?
at that, and 1923.
Yeah, in 1923, and she was single. She didn't have a husband's income to support her wild idea, right?
Women couldn't even get a credit card.
I know.
In the 70s
they couldn't get a bank loan.
Husband. Yeah.
Right. So she, she did that. So at great personal risk, but she also did it. Everybody, all the official folks, all the experts would have said she was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That the best thing for people with disabilities was to put them in these institutions. Yeah. I mean, doctors said that to right up into the 70s.
Take them there and forget about them.
Yeah, forget you ever had them.
Right.
And that was the common wisdom.
Yeah.
And certainly we can criticize it, and we should. But that's what they thought was best, both for the individuals, for the other kids at home, for the family, for everybody. And she said no. So not only did she take great personal risk, but she kind of went against the establishment, right? And said, and I always say that's a little bit of our spirit at Hammer Residence. If we think it's the right thing to do for the people we support, we will figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the regulation or the authorities or anybody else says. We're not going to break the law, but we're going to find out a way to do it. So obviously I didn't know her. She died, quite a while ago. But what kind of courage is that?
Yeah.
And so I'm intrigued by her because I see her as sort of breaking the mold.
Yeah. And Ralph had lived there for a long time.
Ralph lived at Hammer for 70 some years. He was one of the first kids, one of the early kids that came to her school. And he ended up living there and staying there and moving out to Wayzata when the whole operation moved out to Wayzata. And lived there into the 1990s.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's what Hammer really does, is just serve people.
And he had a good life.
Yeah.
He had a good life.
Yeah. And isn't that what we all aspire to have?
Of course.
At least we can advocate for ourselves on it.
Right.
These people with disabilities sometimes can't.
Right. Exactly.
It's just it warms my heart to know what you guys do over there.
Thank you.
And that's why I feel like it was so important to get you on this podcast to talk about.
It was really fun.
The cause.
Yeah.
I mean, I love what you guys do over there. So before you go,
Yeah.
the thank you I would like to give you, I have a few gifts for you.
Oh, wow.
So, of course, it wouldn't
I
be
get
like
a bucket from, oh, no.
the salt bucket
Yeah,
from
yeah.
our salt delivery program.
Ooh.
A nice podcast
Look
mug.
at that. These are probably rare, right?
They are
Yeah.
one of a kind.
Limited edition. Thank you.
And while you're enjoying your coffee,
Yeah.
may a
Oh.
big fortune cookie come out of
All right.
fortunes, out of the big bucket
Wonder.
of fortunes with fortune cookies.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody on the show gets their own trophy. Thank you very much for being awesome and amazing. And
I love it.
and I know how much of a reader you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure if fiction or nonfiction. I was trying to figure
read
out a
both.
good book for you,
Yeah.
but I thought a $30 gift card
Oh, thank you.
to Barnes and
That's
Noble. So, yeah.
That'll get used.
Yeah, and add $1.50 to that, you can get a Costco at hot dog at Costco. with
Yeah,
that.
hot dog and a soda,
And a
right?
soda.
Isn't it for
That's
$1.50?
right, for
Yeah.
$1.50.
I've never done that. I belong to Costco, but I've still never done that.
Well, thanks again,
Yeah.
John, for being on the show. I
Yeah,
can't
thank
thank you enough.
Well, it was fun.
If you want to learn more about John Estrem and Hammer, you can go to hammer.org, or you can just visit us at the Twin Sea Tales Facebook page, and we'll post it on there. As we roll out of here, I want to thank Chris Hockey for the use of his song Thanks, with no pun intended. And this show is powered by Twin Sea Heating and Electric. And until the next show, don't forget, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong on your Twin Sea Tales podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this song to say thank you for the breath that I just took, for the life my son will lead. I hope when you look down from heaven, that you